that threw me off. Sorry. We'll go in and provide peer support services, and that looks like just kind of sitting down with people and talking things through, what their plan is when they're discharging, how things are going in the jail system, what resources do they need access to afterwards. Sometimes advocacy opportunities can present themselves regarding, for example, someone getting their bail reduced. That was one thing we were able to do. And so really we come in and interface at different parts of people's journeys there, but generally speaking, it's towards the end, working with Alexia over there with the discharge planning and just making sure that when they are coming out that they have somewhere to go, and it's not just, nice to see you, and then they're out and there's no support at all for them once they have been released.
And Ryan, did you get a chance to look at the jail application and what was approved then?
I haven't seen that. I'm not sure where Catherine is. She would really be the person to connect with regarding how our application is interfacing with this one regarding the jail. Let me see if I can reach out to her. I want to make sure you guys have the most accurate information, and I don't want to speak to something that I don't know a lot about. Because my piece is more the street outreach piece and trying to identify individuals that are actively using opioids or in recovery.
Madam Vice Chair, I would say that from the sounds of it, it's not duplicative.
Right.
Yeah. And I think what I would encourage if an application was funded, or we recommend it for funding, is that they do work closely with the jail and review that application closer to ensure that there is no duplication.
Mm-hmm.
And in our updates, maybe we could even get an update of how the jail is working with the outreach team to show a coordinated effort. Not that we put that on them, but I think that there could be some communication to help with that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
An additional question would be how they might coordinate with the county's criminal justice services department under the direction of Kelly McBride. They're constantly working with those folks in the jail. They provide counselors in the jail for folks who are there. I guess in the second part of the question will be what percentage of work would be jail related and what percentage would be on the street.
And Commissioner, I had a hard time hearing you at some point, but I think what you were indicating was how are they working with Kelly McBride and her team in and out of the jail system, as well as how is her team interacting with Good Samaritan in general once an individual is out of the jail system? Is that kind of the gist of what you were asking?
Yeah, that's right. I just wanted to just make sure that we're not duplicating the efforts of criminal justice services, and that might be fully answered just by looking at how much of their activity on the street and how much of it's related to folks that are in the jail.
And I would ask Ryan if he had kind of an answer to that as far as how they're working with the criminal justice, that outreach program with Kelly McBride and the team.
I believe that we interface with them weekly during case conferencing. And that's really a time where a lot of our providers can get together to discuss at-risk individuals. And then beyond that, do you know if Alexia is in that team? Because that's really my main point of contact in the jail system, is working with her and getting scheduled to meet with clients that way. I wish I had more information to share with you. I'm trying to get Catherine on here, and she may be able to speak a little bit better to some of these things.
I don't know that any of us would know the answer to that question. Unless I'm naive and somebody out there is more aware than I am.
No. And then, I guess the other part of my question was, what percentage of your efforts are related to folks in the jail or folks that have been put out through the criminal justice services with that well subject to certain behaviors, and how much of it related to uh, working the streets like you were saying that you were doing.
So if I'm hearing your question correctly, you're asking how much of this would be for the outreach and then how much of it would be going for interfacing with the jails?
Mhm.
That is a good question. I know that the majority of what we're trying to do is regarding the street outreach piece, which does overlap with working in the jails, but it's not like specifically doing that. It's if someone's in there and they're going to discharge soon, working with them on that. And then really the majority of it is going to be going out and identifying people who are actively using or who are actively in recovery and trying to engage with them and getting them housed, getting them mental health services, um, and yeah, just really trying to meet them where they're at and get them the support that they need in our community.
The majority of it would be that the folks that are out on the street, not related to.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
and there is some overlap, but the primary focus, yes, would be working with people who are actively on the streets or who are at risk of losing their housing, which being discharged from jail would fall under that.
Thank you.
Going back to the other questions that we had with the first application, Vice Chair Smith, you had mentioned the removal of school-based components, and it appeared to me that all of that was removed from the application. Did you have any further concerns or comments about that?
Chair, no, not about the youth, but I do have a question about the outreach. They mentioned funding media campaigns to prevent opioid misuse and then reference a contract with a radio station. And I'm just wondering if you're actually reaching your focus population with messaging on a radio station. Are they listening to the radio? Would those funds be better used some other way? Have you guys found that that's an effective way to reach the population?
I really appreciate that question, and that's a really good point. I don't have numbers to present to you showing how many people may or may not be accessing the radio, but with that being said, traditionally, that's how we've gotten a lot of our information out into the public. And that would be one of multiple avenues. Media can look like the radio, but can also look like social media and can look like also getting the word out through our front door agency, Our Place, and then kind of beyond that, um, just trying to work with other agencies in the community to get the word out that we do have these services available for people. And then also, even like when I'm out or other people are out doing outreach, being able to have those one-on-one conversations, because you're right, not everybody has a radio or has even a cell phone. And so there will I think it would be naive of me to say that everyone who would need to hear that would hear it through the radio. I think that there would be people that would not be getting the message that way. And also trying to engage through these other avenues, I think would provide us a bigger net for catching people and getting people to get the information that they're looking for.
And I appreciate your question, Vice Chair. I had a similar one, and in the budget, I don't see that budgeted anywhere, or where it would fit in either.
Chair, I think I took it as preventative activities.
And okay, the way that's listed is that that's just for the part-time employee.
Oh, you're right.
But I was wondering the same thing. Is that included in part of the salary? Is that, what does that mean? But then I saw that within the administrative oversight, there was training, management. So I did outreach, specific meetings. I didn't know, and what et cetera could mean, of course, lots of things. Didn't know if it was part of that budget. And Ryan, can you speak to that, or would that be a Catherine question?
I think the best information about how the budget would go would be from Catherine, but it is my understanding that part of this engagement or outreach piece would be the social media and trying to connect with people that just don't really know what is available, like a public awareness campaign, kind of just trying to get the information out. And another piece of that could even be like workshops. One idea would be harm reduction and trying to get Narcan as well as training for Narcan use out. And so just trying to disseminate that information to as many people as possible, and the people that the target population especially would be key. And then, yeah, speaking to the funding, how much would be set aside for those efforts, Catherine would really be the best person for that. And I see that Samantha, she just texted me. She says that she has some answers to these questions, but it's not letting her speak. I don't
see the other one listed as Catherine. There are two Catherines listed.
And Mr. Chair, I'm in a conference right now.
Oh, that's Catherine.
and sorry, Mr. Chair.
Can anyone see me or hear me?
We can hear you, Catherine, briefly. Mr. Chair, I also want to double check. Samantha might be in as an attendee under Teresa's account. Would that be correct? Okay, I will promote her to a panelist, and then she should be able to respond.
Is she live now?
Yeah, so with regard to training and things like that, I mean, from an HR perspective, anytime you have an employee, you're gonna have a number of different things come along with that. That could be new hire training, paperwork, disciplinary action, payroll. I mean, with a human being comes a great deal of effort. On our part from a human resources perspective. So I don't know if you wanted me to speak to that or.
Our question that arose was about the advertising on radio, and where that funding would come from. It was all because it's not listed as a budget item in the budget itself. And a question that was asked earlier that would go to the same point is, equipment was mentioned, but there's no equipment budgeted. So what would those be, and under what line item would they fall? Are there more questions from the committee that I'm missing?
No, I think that's it. Especially the equipment.
Mm-hmm. Just because they're not budgeted otherwise. So was there an answer to those questions?
It looks like
Oh,
Catherine's trying to get in.
Just so that
correct. do see transportation as a line item, but that still doesn't answer the question of radio ads or equipment. I guess I see that that's outreach supplies. But again, that doesn't answer the question of radio advertising, the amount of that or what that would include, and then what is the equipment?
She's probably trying to type her answer on her phone.
Right. That's correct.
All right, well, we can come back to that question maybe and move on to a couple of the others that were asked. Let me go to those. We had also asked about better defining rural, which I think was mentioned, just in the locations around the county that the organization is looking to get to. Birdseye was mentioned. East Valley, which or I can't remember exactly how it was phrased, but it alluded to out by the lake, maybe, where that was mentioned before in the application. So I found that answer sufficient. I don't know if anybody else had any thoughts or concerns about it.
Did everybody see Catherine's response?
Yeah, $900 a month. Additional medium, we have an augmented budget for weekly ads, monthly spots at $200 a month.
So these, can you guys hear me? I'm sorry, I'm at Carroll College at an AmeriCorps conference, and so I'm struggling to hear everyone. But so the $200 a month is additional to what we already have. We already have a media campaign that we've been doing and working with for several years now. Then when I spoke with one of our ad campaign, this would be 30-second spots. We would be running these on a weekly basis. We would, thank you. We would additionally be expanding to include more interviews. So going into our place, speaking with Ryan out in the field, having kind of like on the spot what we're doing out in the field. If there are special initiatives where we're calling people to be somewhere because we're partnering with another organization for any other kind of opioid harm reduction interventions, if you will, or if we're getting them to liaise with our navigators, should we be successful, because we've got coffers to place them into a rehab facility, or for them to go to other day treatment, outpatient treatment. These would be additional. So we've got a media campaign already. When I spoke with our contractor, to augment that with this additional message is kind of going above and beyond the scope of something that my superiors, have already signed contracts for. So that was what that was for. I don't recall putting, and I'm sorry if I'm looking a little scattered. There was no specific equipment. I might not have taken that out. There would have been equipment if we had gone into the schools, because there would have been tangible booklets and items. We're not doing a naloxone. We're not going in and distributing any kind of those supplies. So I apologize if that was still in there. I thought I had cleaned that up. I don't recall it being in. The two things that I had changed was definitely speaking with Ryan about the scope of going into and where they already are and where they know there are some encampments and potential encampments where people are moving around in the rural areas. And then also those transportation costs that would be incurred by expanding our rural approach, taking some of those funds and placing them into, if we're again successful, a part-time employee who would be the bridge, the liaison between outreach and, which is a funded position currently, our current outreach, and also our assistance coordinator, ministry coordinator, Carrie Steer. And so because oftentimes there's such a critical housing component that gets lost in the shuffle somewhere. And if you put somebody into a rehabilitation facility 30, 60, 90 days, and they come back out into being unsheltered, everything's lost. You know, everything's lost. If there's no, if nothing, did you lose me? Ugh. I must be in a bad zone.
We can still hear you just great, Catherine.
Okay.
So is the ad campaign part of the $10,000 annual administrative oversight budget?
So the administrative oversight budget, I don't know if Brianna Trent is on here. I had put all the notes in there that she had asked me to place in there that with regard to what the oversight that she does. That's not something that's under my purview from what I understand. With the additional staffing, with the additional transportation, with the those are additional costs that from a contract management perspective, she felt was not egregious or you know, overlooking what the campaign could do. So I
think the question that's still unanswered is where is it budgeted that the ads would be coming from?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So did I not have those in there?
It's not in the budget, no.
Yeah. Okay. So did Ryan mention we are doing ad campaigns? Whatever I've put into the direct line items in the budget for, and I apologize, for administrative costs, that was a discussion with Brianna Trent, our fiscal advisor, and I thought that I had written down pretty extensively. So I'm sorry we carried on about the ad campaign. Somebody had mentioned it, so I was like, oh, that's an additional $200 that we're doing. I've actually been working right now on a bunch of different fundraising events that augment a lot of the activities that we currently do anyway. So the line items as they stand in the entire request are the part-time employee, the full-time employee, and the administrative costs. And I believe that those have been broken down into those different categories and line items fairly extensively.
So to clarify, you would just be augmenting your own ads with your own funding separate from this, but about what this is doing. Okay, nope, that answers the question. I think from my perspective.
Sorry, in a very roundabout way. We are prepared because we need to get the word out. I will be doing more Facebook, you know, announcements. It will be, if we were successful, it would be listed on our website. I'm sorry, I came in like half the discussion. So yes, it is an additional $200 cost to us, but we are not passing it down through any administrative fees.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions pertaining to that or budget itself?
Not the budget.
One thing that just came to mind with the budget question is you had mentioned on your application there is no fiscal agent. Is Brianna an employee of Good Samaritan?
Sorry, she's an employee. She's our accountant, basically. Yeah.
Yep. And you're requesting a 10% administrative fee for that role and that information, and we see that. Any other budget questions from folks? All right, I will take that as a no. Going back to the questions that we originally had from the original application, you better define the street outreach program unless anybody has questions about those or that component. And then we've spoken to Ryan about our concerns about duplication of efforts and would want you all to work with the jail on the application that was already approved if this is approved.
Excellent. That's something that really has recently been something that we started addressing. And should we be successful with this application, we could definitely and have intentions of getting our peer support in there even more, because those individuals that will eventually be released and will need additional outreach services and support.
Are there any other questions for Good Samaritan before we discuss this as a committee?
Mr. Chair, the email that we got from James where we were talking about SMART goals, in reading through this, I'm still not seeing any like solid numbers of where you are now and where you hope to be if you get this funding.
So I had written down a couple of the statistics that Ryan had shared with me of people that they have known. You know, the numbers actually, Colleen, are you know, they're not concrete at the moment because we haven't just targeted opioid individuals with opioid issues at the moment. So on any given month, Ryan is approaching at least 40 individuals. That's because it's just one person. If we had two, I'm thinking that we would, and of those 40 people, I think his statistics were about 25 to 30% were self and or knowledge, you know, we knew had addictive issues, co-occurring mental health and substance abuse issues. And so those numbers, should we have another full-time employee? And then Carrie had given me, Carrie Steer with the assistance ministry, numbers and that at the moment, you know, every month she's speaking to, and not always intakes, at least 50 to 60 individuals. Okay. And of those individuals, a fraction of them, probably not even an eighth of them, she's able to assist with housing or any of the other supports post if she's putting them into rehab. With a navigator, we would be able to. So I'm sorry, we don't have right now concrete numbers because we simply haven't been able to go and see those individuals, every individual. I know that, you know, Ryan will speak to at least 40 individuals every month. And then of those individuals, he'll be able to assist every single one of them with at least something. Harm reduction and extrapolating from that, the 5 to 12 or more individuals that need more targeted services for their addictions. We have not been able to address that because we simply haven't had the funding. It's been more of a triage right now for Ryan. Give them a backpack, give them some food, give them some water, send them over to a counselor, make sure that they hook up with Carrie and our assistance ministry or any other organization that might be able to give them some kind of a roof over their head. If they're interested in rehab or counseling, get them over to our place and make sure that they're meeting with some of the other peer support individuals. So within the first quarter, should we be successful with this, or even within the first month of success towards that first quarter, we would know what our measurable outcomes will be with regard to people and numbers. The measurable outcomes themselves would be how many individuals were we able to successfully get into counseling, rehabilitation, housing, you know, with all the different supports. How many different individuals have identified as really wanting and needing the navigation assistance that at the moment we're limited in our capacity providing, specifically for individuals with such high caliber needs as an individual who's in the throes of an opioid addiction or some measure of an opioid addiction. So, you know, I'll start off with, at the very least, you know, 40 to 50 individuals a month times 12 months, you know, which is just kind of like one measure right now, and suggest that we're looking at least 2 or 3-fold. I mean, there's a reason why this opioid harm reduction grant was placed before this committee and our government, you know, across the nation, because it's out of control. We have not yet been able to really address it in the manner which we want to address it. And so I wish I could say to you, Colleen, you know, 100 individuals, you know, I've said it, 40 individuals, of that, at least a quarter of them. And those are the ones that we know because Ryan's engaged with them, you know, post adjudicated, or they're already adjudicated, or they're hiding from adjudication, or, you know, or they're somewhere, right? How about the ones that aren't self-proclaiming, right? Because they feel like no one's going to be able to help them anyway. I feel like with measurable media, with discussion, with more outreach, that's not to disparage what we do already, but that goes beyond, you know, the backpack, the suitcase, and the tent, which at the moment, some of it is the creature comforts, the warmth is all we can offer. We can go further and dig deeper with these type of targeted grants, which is why peer support grants are so important with, you know, at our place, which is why peer support grants and additional funding and outreach to be able to say, listen, I'm not just giving you a bottle of water and a food pack. These are what we have to offer.
So Vice Chair Smith, your question is looking for numbers of who they would be working with and getting to a goal of additional and or percentages of those being assisted. Is that your question?
Well, I think we've talked about this with every application is some SMART goals, like where are you now? How many people are you helping now or, you know, outreach to? And then what are you hoping to accomplish with the additional funding? So, I mean, I get that it's a nebulous number, but I don't know, we've just kind of been towards SMART goals with the applications. That was.
So from the one FTE they currently have assisting 40, did you say monthly?
At least 40, but we're not extrapolating or targeting individuals with opioid, you know, that in addiction. Although Ryan did give me those numbers and said it was about a quarter of the individuals at the moment.
Yeah.
But we're not yet able to really assist them with very targeted assistance as much as we would like.
And I'm not even looking for specific opioid numbers because there's polysubstance use and co-occurring and all of that. And I get you can't pull that out, but I'm just looking for how many people have you outreached a month? And with this extra people, how many more can you get? That, in my mind, that's what I'm looking for. I don't know, Chairman, you have kind of been.
Well, I think we could do double it if we had a double Ryan.
And I think that would be
Ryan can only go so many places, and that's been part of the issue. Sorry.
We haven't necessarily requested this from everyone, but I think that would be a good goal. And if we were to approve this application, that maybe we get a monthly update of how many individuals have been outreached to, and from the numbers, how many may have a diagnosed or a something that this grant is there to cover. You're not going to necessarily know to those you outreach to whether or not they have this ahead of time, but whether or not they have opioid use disorder or something like you had indicated, Colleen, a co-occurring concern. Maybe we could get those monthly figures and we could report that could be reported to the committee every month. What would your thoughts, folks, be on that from the committee?
Ryan? I mean, I think it could be doable, but what do you think? I don't know. Ryan might have left to do some outreach. I believe he's back in the jails or somewhere today. I know he had to leave earlier. Yes. You know, we are definitely very transparent. And if we had, as a part of our contract measures, a reporting instrument or document that we needed to do, which is why Ryan was able to give me those pieces of information. So, absolutely. We could target it for not only just our outreach. Oh, he is here, he said. Ryan, he's saying it won't let him speak. So we're all having some audio issues. Ryan wanted to answer. Can you hear me, Ryan?
That was Amanda. That's our from the city. But committee members, would that be something that you would be interested in seeing if the organization was able to report back to us monthly on some of those figures of outreach and the increases?
A monthly might be excessive. I'd be happy with quarterly.
Ryan said yes, we can. Quarterly would be great. He said he does it for ESG now already.
Okay.
What?
So we could even give you what our ESG numbers are and then what the additional, with additional funds, what we're able to, and that additional person, should we be successful, and show you there what the funds are doing to augment our ability to impact this community in a positive way.
Well, and I think if by doing that, if you're going to come back in a year and request funding again, it would certainly bolster your application to say, look what we were able to do. So
Absolutely. Thank you.
And
That
other
heartens
committee
me.
members, Mayor or Commissioner, your thoughts on that?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine with it. I mean, if they're okay with, quarterly reporting and, I'm fine.
One of the things, if I might, Mr. Chairman, the county is putting some funding toward this effort. And we are asking them to give us a monthly report, which might be adequate. So give you the information for this, the information that.
And Commissioner, you break up every once in a while.
Yeah.
It's difficult to understand you. It kind of depends on where you're sitting in your seat at the time. But from what I'm gathering is another organization that you're working with, you are requiring reporting like that, but I don't know if you said monthly or quarterly.
We're doing it we actually are working with Good Samaritan and a very similar amount, and we're requesting a monthly report of the people they talk to.
Right.
And that's that might dovetail into the report that the organization, this organization.
Perfect. Thank you, Commissioner Rolfe. Believe that was what Ryan was saying as well, and what I was saying to Colleen, that we could use as a matrix, to start with the ESG on one sort of column, and then should we be successful with this, what we're able to do in addition to the funds that we have with ESG. So yes, they do dovetail together, which is why it was so important to us to apply for this.
Great, thank you, Ms. Mance. Any other questions for, yes, Commissioner Rolfe?
Just one other question. I know that the commission, or the county commission, has been pretty adamant that they didn't want to provide housing, overnight housing. And I don't know if you're planning on doing any of that.
No, not at all. We, the part-time, the bridge person is not for housing. We have Hunt House and we have funds, but Carrie can't always get to those applications, our current assistance ministry. So it's to be able to identify the need, because we do have a fairly good amount of funds for individuals to go to rehabilitation or to be temporarily housed when they have these kind of special circumstances with their addictions. But again, with Carrie can't get to all of them. It's like a one-man office, which is why I thought the part-time navigator position would be a perfect role to be able, because honestly, Commissioner, sometimes we're in danger of not spending those funds enough or fast enough, because the need is great, but it takes a couple of hours or days to complete the process, to vet the people, to make sure that they are indeed a candidate. So none of the funds would be used to house individuals, but the navigator person would be able to identify those amongst the outreach harm reduction process that we're able to serve with housing, with other grant money and or funds that we have, donor designated funds. I hope that sufficiently answered that.
Thank you.
Other questions for Good Samaritan while we have them as a panelist? All right, well, I will take that as a no. Internal discussion amongst the committee members about the application and your thoughts on moving forward.
I mean, I feel better about it knowing some of this additional information, and I don't want to add any additional things for them to have to do to report out. If there's already something that they're doing, I think that's sufficient, and it would then show if they're reaching more people.
Yeah, and I think a monthly in coordination with the one that they're providing to the county. If we could make that as part of, if this were a motion were to be made, that would be a part of that motion, that we request monthly reporting in coordination to what they're reporting to the county otherwise.
Yep.
The help from Ann and Amanda, I think, was great, and they asked very straightforward questions, and they answered all of my questions. I think that it's a good application, and it covers a wide swath of our community. My hope is that we can get something that is school-based or youth-related in a next application or for the next round. Do I hear that there is a motion in place to approve this application, or more discussion?
I'll move that we approve the application.
I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, I did not hear Commissioner Rolfe, but I didn't hear him either way. He
I
said
saw his
yes.
hand go up.
Oh, you saw his hand, okay. Thank you, I did not, I couldn't see that on the screen, so, thank you. Well, then that is a, four yeses, to approve the application for the Stops campaign. And, Amanda, if I can rely on you to send out the pertinent information, to request approval from the MOAT, with the only amendment being that we would like to, get a monthly report from them.
Happy to do so.
All right.
And we are just, again, just doing it for one term, Mr. Chair, right? Or 1 year.
Correct, 1 year, and their application was amended to reflect that as well.
Okay, I missed.
But good point to make, Commissioner, that yes, it is for 1 year, and we will revisit this if they apply next year. All right. Well, more good news then coming to the county.
Mr.
We'll
Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Apologies.
Yes, Amanda.
I do just want to make sure that my notes reflect what you want included in the monthly report. I'm not entirely sure what they report to the county, but specifically, you'll be looking for the number of folks that are served and how many of those folks have opioid use disorders. Or is that correct? Or is there additional data that you want to make sure is included?
I mean, it's going to be up to everybody else, but I don't think we need opioid numbers because there's so much polysubstance use. And just because maybe they're not using opioids right now doesn't mean that they might not transition to another substance. So I just don't think that that's something that personally, I don't think that we need those numbers.
And I guess the way, and maybe I should have recommended this from the beginning, was one of the comments that Ms. Mance had made was that they're already reporting to the county and they would just add a column for the for this new FTE that would be hired. And so they would just report the exact same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So if they can just duplicate that report to the Lewis and Clark County Metro Region Governance Committee, that they're reporting to the Lewis and Clark County Commission.
You bet.
Will that make it easier for you, Amanda?
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. I had some notes from earlier in the discussion that I was trying to cobble them.
No,
doing
God
tech
bless you.
and notes at the same time. So just wanted to make sure that I didn't miss something.
Sure. Before we go to public comment, I wanted to make another comment too. I did speak with the newspaper today with Phil Drake and filled him in a little bit more on what the MOAT is doing within Lewis and Clark County, and sent him some information or provided him with some information. And my hope is that they'll be doing a news story on it coming up. So those of you on the committee may hear from Phil Drake or someone else from the Helen IR, but just wanted them to be aware of the good work and the coverage of this funding, and in hopes that it can help spread the word of the programs that are being funded.
Great.
Are there other, anybody else have any comments before I go to public comment or anything else for the good of the order? I will take that as a no. Is there any public comment? Amanda, anybody with their hand raised?
Chairman Feist, all attendees have exited the meeting at this time.
Okay. All right, so the next meeting that we will have, we don't have one on the books. So do we want to schedule one now? It usually works out well when we're all together. Amanda, do you have by chance the next time that the MOAT is meeting? That usually seems to be helpful for us as we're trying to coordinate our meetings.
Chairman Feist, I believe the next meeting is on April 11th. Let me double check.
And they don't have a summer one then scheduled yet. We were hoping to get this in so that they could review this application before that meeting. Do we have, do they have another one scheduled after that?
Chairman Feist, I don't believe that they do.
Okay. So do we want to schedule another one now for the next quarter?
I think we should, and then it's on the books, and if something comes up, then we can meet, and if we don't, then we can cancel it.
Sure, I think that's a good idea. The last time, if I remember correctly, they met in July. So maybe if we met in June, and then that gives some folks a little bit more time to submit an application for us to review it. One other piece, Amanda, when we're done today, so this was $100,000. Do you have a indication of what balance we have remaining from this year?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
I can.
Mr. Chairman, let me pull up. At the beginning of today, we had $194,935.31. So we would have $94,935.31.
Okay.
And
then that,
oh, sorry, Chair.
go ahead. No, go ahead, Vice Chair.
I have written down that on July 1, we'll get another 400,000.
That's correct.
Okay.
And unless we get another application, then before then we can carry that 94,000 and some change over, which I think is a good thing, knowing that we may get the same applications and having less money, that may be helpful for us to try and spread that out. So,
Mr. Chair, do we have a note of when the next is? It's a fiscal year again.
July 1.
July 1 to June 3rd. That's what I was thinking. Okay.
So hope would be that maybe we get some applications and or some of the re-applications, and we can award at the June meeting for the next fiscal year. If those applications come in between now and maybe the end of June, and then we would be able to award for the next fiscal year with that remaining money and the new tranche of funding. So I would recommend then a end of June of 2025 meeting in hopes that we have more information, maybe more applications.
Mr. Chair, I am gone from June 23rd through the 1st.
Okay. So what about the week
I
of the
thought we were
16th?
supposed to vote on whether members can leave or not.
What? You're
Yeah,
cracking up. I can hear you.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing that.
Mhm.
No, I just thought that. That's all.
Oh. What about the week of the 16th? Is there an available date that folks may work for people?
June,
Of June, yep, the week of June 16th.
I'm
I'm
available.
completely open most of that week, maybe near the end of the week. Then if folks submit an application prior to the end of the quarter.
Mr. Chair, I'll just point out that Juneteenth will be celebrated for the city of Helena, and the city of Helena will be potentially, I'm not sure if Lewis and Clark County also take this
When is
date
that?
off, but that's Thursday, June 19th.
Yeah.
So Wednesday maybe would be a
Sure.
potential day.
Which would be good, because don't we always meet on a Wednesday?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that works out well. Do we want to do a 2 o'clock again? And is there a preference of location?
Zoom.
Mr. Chair, I have a SSD meeting scheduled from 1:30 to 2:30, so it'd be 3 o'clock before I can.
Does 3 o'clock work then on the 18th?
Yep.
Okay. And I hear Mayor may prefer Zoom, but for the larger meeting, if we meet in person, and Mayor, you're welcome to join online if that works for you.
You bet.
Okay. So 3 to 4:30, Amanda, and we'll change that closer to the time if needed, if we don't have applications or there's nothing to visit about.
Correct.
All right. Can I ask Amanda one more thing is, with the applications that we funded, I think that the jail would be the only one that may need to request funding again if they wish to do so. Do you have the capacity, you or Ann, to reach out to them and let them know that if they wanted funding for fiscal, and or correct me if I'm wrong, they were the first one we funded. Maybe they have until the following quarter before their new year is up.
Mr. Chairman, my understanding is that it took some time to get that under agreement. It may have, and I wish Ann was here, she would know for sure. I
You're
want to say
right.
it was later in the fall when they actually got under contract, maybe even the beginning of this year. And
I
so
think you're right, that January
Um,
1 was maybe when they were funded, so they still have some time too.
yeah, and what I can do is check with the MOAT staff to see what their protocol is in terms of
Okay.
asking for end of year reporting as well as invitation to reapply for subsequent years.
I would appreciate that, Amanda, if you or Ann have the ability to do that.
Happy to do so.
All right.
And Mr. Chair,
Yes.
we might also have Amanda take a look at any money, other funds that might come in between now and our meeting too, so that we have a current balance. And it seems like probably aren't going to be many of them dribbling in, but we had a period of time where we were getting changes almost monthly. I don't think that's going to happen, but we could get some extra money between now and then.
Oh, sure, in case the overall state trust received more money than that, if there was an additional tranche above what was already indicated.
Right.
Right.
Sure. Amanda, if you could add that to your request to the MOAT.
I will make sure and do so. And I do know we actually just got notified today or end of the day yesterday about additional Walgreens settlement dollars.
Oh.
So it's a small amount of money.
Hey,
Sure.
every
at
drop will
least
help.
What I saw, and statewide it might be different because there are the different pots of funds. What I saw was specific to what the locality of the city of Helena will be receiving from those funds over the next 3 years, and it's in the $2,000, $3,000 range. So it's not a big amount of money, but I would have to see the larger calculations to know exactly how that's going to impact this particular committee.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Have we decided about some of the statewide applications that have been made. We kind of put it on hold, waiting for all, everybody to be up and running, but have we decided we're only going to fund Lewis and Clark County, or do we want to look at any of those other ones?
I don't think that the moat has given us an answer to that. There was some information that did come in, and Amanda, correct me if I'm wrong, but that the region that we're also near, not in, but near, with Marr County and Broadwater County and Jefferson County, that they are almost formed. So that's good. They're making progress, but they haven't even formed yet. So I don't know how that plays into the statewide, but I just wanted to share that if folks weren't aware.
Well, I did see that some of the regions have funded some of those statewide ones, like the Montana Meth Project, which I was very much against, but there's some other ones that, yeah, I don't know. They're just on my dashboard, so I didn't know if I should take the time to go through them or not.
Amanda, maybe that could be another question that's asked. If you don't mind adding to your list, is asking about the statewide applications and how other regions or metro areas have taken those into consideration.
Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to do so. I would add that we have asked this question multiple times of the moat, and I'm not entirely sure if they are inclined to be strong-handed in providing a structure for coordination of the statewide groups. It's my understanding that, and I will confirm, but it's my understanding that likely the groups that are funding these statewide projects have done so because they choose and see merit in those, whether or not it's impacting the full state or not, or just their county. But as far as I know, there is no structure for that coordination, and I'm not sure if the mode is inclined to do so, especially since there are still regions that are not yet formed. But we'll check.
Okay, yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I know you have asked that question, and I guess what we're looking for is more guidance on that, because if that's an expectation or an understanding, we're not meeting it, but it's also hasn't been. So I think we're doing what's good for our community, but haven't gone beyond that. Is maybe we do review those before the next meeting, and if there are any outstanding applications that haven't been funded, that we look into seeing if we want to give a portion of what's been allocated to Lewis and Clark County to those applications. I don't know if that answers your question, Vice Chair, or if you have something else to add to that.
No, I'm just wondering, and it seems like maybe we did have a lot of questions about, what if one funds it and another one doesn't? And but just as a group, are we going to be committed to just spending in Lewis and Clark County, or do we want to look at some other things that are more statewide?
I guess I have reviewed those applications, but it's been some time, so I'd need to go back through them. Is that we do review the outstanding statewide applications, and maybe more of a question, Amanda, would be what applications have already been funded and could be removed from the system, and or are they still seeking potential funding from other areas to add to the larger statewide? So maybe a more directed question at that. And then we can look at those at the end of June meeting to at least have some clarity as to whether or not to proceed or not. Because I agree with you, Vice Chair Smith, that I think that either clarity or get them in or out is positive, so that no one's waiting thinking that they're in line and they're really not.
Yeah.
So Amanda, maybe the question is, out of the statewide or multi-region applications, have any been funded, or do any need to be removed because they're not interested anymore? And then we can review those in June.
Okay.
I'll make sure
Does
to
that give
include that. Yes.
you more direction to not maybe get the same answer?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and I already see Amanda's already on it and sent us a meeting request. And super grateful for you and Anne, Amanda, and thanks for all you do. And we will look forward to seeing you all in June, if not sooner. Is there anything else to comment about, or anything else?
Nope.
All right, well, then this meeting is adjourned, or do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Oh, second.
Second, terrific. All right, well, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
All right, this meeting is adjourned at 3:17. Thanks, Amanda. Thank you, folks, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.